Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Derek. Hello, Humpamaniacs. If you're tuning in live to YouTube, listening on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, the whole nine yards. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Derek Humphrey. Welcome to Great Hang. Gonna talk some shit. As always, with my good friend, co-conspirator, way too nice to be doing this, producer, the one and only Chris. Yeah, look at this picture. That picture of you holding pumpkins is indicative of how nice you are.
I've got to update that because people are always making fun of me for that picture.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, you look like a sweet boy.
Recorded because sometimes I'll set up interviews for clients with my Zoom account just to make sure everything goes off and I can record it and everything. And we did one interview with Frank and Trace, and I sent the video to the guy, and my picture of me holding pumpkins was on it, like as one of the squares. And I didn't realize that he wanted the video to use on the article that he was writing.
Oh,
so I had to go back and cut myself out of it.
That's
which
funny.
He was appreciative of.
Yeah, but you should have put in a different picture of yourself instead.
Yeah, I should have put a picture of my ass or something.
Yeah, or you doing deadlifts, like something photoshopped.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Thanks for hanging out. What you up to? How you been?
Good. My wife and I went to the beach yesterday. I lost my wedding ring.
Oh, you went? Yeah, you went to the beach yesterday. We went on Saturday.
Monday. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Still though, you went during the week. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was it packed?
There were a lot of people there, but it wasn't I didn't feel unsafe. There was definitely enough distance to
sure
have on the sand and then also in the water that there weren't that many people swimming. So
right, yeah. Corona doesn't affect you in the water.
I wouldn't think so. Where did you go?
We went to Jones Beach.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How was it out there? I was in Jersey.
Okay. It was nice. I mean, it was the weekend, so it was pretty full. Yeah, but thankfully, Corona's still a hoax. So honestly, we have this big tent that we put up, and it's to give a shade or whatever, and it creates enough distance around us that people don't park too close to us.
Right.
Yeah. So, and no sick people are really at the beach that I know it's the asymptomatic people that you got to be worried about, but it's you don't come into contact with anybody like that. And then, and then also you just don't come into contact with anybody else. It's usually pretty fine. So
yeah.
You lost your wedding ring, huh?
Oh yeah. It's the dumbest thing. Cause I went swimming and I've lost weight. So my ring doesn't fit as well as it used to just be on. I used to have to twist it to get it off, and now it just kind of slips off.
That's when I know I'm up and down in pounds, is because right now it's a little bit tight, but
yeah, totally.
In a week, when we go to the beach, it might slip off in the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. So I would I was underwater and I would splash my hands and and it almost fell off. So I was shit, next time I go in, I better hide this somewhere. So I went.
Good excuse. Oh yeah, I hit it, Jen, because I didn't want to lose it, but somehow I still lost it. Looks like I'm single again.
Well, so when I came out of the water, picked the shirt up, walked maybe 3 steps, I checked it. I'm oh, it's not in here. It must be right where I left it, and then just could not find it.
Oh yeah, it's on some sea urchin's finger now.
Yeah, and it was I was the more I start digging through the sand, the harder it's going to be to find. So I was I'm just going to drive myself insane if I stay here.
Was your wife pissed?
No, I mean I was bummed out, but it wasn't,
Yeah, she'd have been mad if you were happy.
Yeah. We did look for a half hour, and it was just I can't look through sand anymore.
My wife has lost her wedding ring 3 times.
Yeah, he told me that. That's insane.
I lost mine once. We haven't like it sounds like we're bad a marriage. We're a bad couple. It sounds like we like don't give a shit about our marriage or whatever. She's got 2 engagement rings, okay? So like that makes up for it. But we knew not to invest a lot of money in we're not jewelry people. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, and so mine will sometime I lost one. You know, it'll start to slip off in the ocean. And it's like, oh, babe, looks like I just don't need it, and then throw it.
Yeah.
But
did you ever, or when you got married, did you like, because you know the whole like the urban legend that once you start wearing a wedding ring, like women start flirting with you more?
Yeah. You know what? I became so adversarial and uncharming once I got married because I knew it was over for me. I didn't have to like fake my way through dating anymore. That like, no, I think if it sometimes it takes Jess, my wife, pointing it out for me to notice it.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Because we were like, I think like 4 weeks ago, when I was in much better shape, which is not to say that much better shape than I am right now, but like I was like feeling myself. Like my wife was making fun of me. She's like, you know, flexing in the mirror and anything. Because I've been doing like kettlebells and push-ups and everything like that. And I'm still fat. Like it's, but like for like a 41-year-old, I look okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. Although I look good until we turn the Zoom meeting on. I look like fucking dog shit. I really do. I look terrible in these, but I feel like in the mirror, I look better in the mirror than I do in the Zoom camera.
Oh yeah, totally.
This is what I hate about Zoom. So anyways, and some young girl with, you know, was like not young, like she was like, I don't know, 24, 25 or whatever. I guess she kept checking me out. And then, which is weird. I had my shirt off. I'm not even trying to say like I'm attractive by any means or whatever. And I was like, now you're full of shit. And then after a while, I noticed it. And I was like, oh, she is kind of making eyes at me. And she was okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like, you know, although, I mean, it's been so long since I've been out like in society or whatever that I wouldn't know. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's just no, or as I would know, there's no opportunity for it. But the last Bushwick Bears that we had at Mad Tropical, this woman, and I mean woman, because she was like my age or whatever, wasn't even just some young dumb trollop, right? Like this is like a woman. I talked about my wife in my set, right? And then she came up to me and she put her arms around me. It was like, yeah, she was like, you are like something else or whatever. And she was like pretty hot for an older lady or whatever. And I was like, yeah, it's cool. You know, I was like, my wife really appreciates me. You know, like I just
hot for an older lady.
When I say older, my wife's younger than me and I still call her older. Old bitch.
You just mean like not in their 20s.
Yeah, not in their 20s. Yeah. Like women, the shelf life, like 33 and over. But I'm just kidding. Mostly.
You're gonna get canceled for that.
From what? Canceled from I'm just kidding. I have to. Oh yeah, that's right. I have to preface the show with everything I say on here is a joke. I still do comedy. I do the lost art of comedy. I know everybody else in the scene has moved on to some form of social activism, but I like to still tell jokes. So, but anyways, and then she straight up, she was like, "You tell your wife how lucky she is." I was like, "Oh, she knows." She goes, "No, tell her how lucky she is." And I was like, okay. Jericho was even like, damn, man, this chick was like not fucking around, you know? So yeah, but like not nearly as much. I see like my favorite thing is like old girlfriends who are like, who reach out of the woodwork, like, oh, I fucked up. I'm like, yeah, you did. You really did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope you're happy with your husband in your suburban home and your secure future. You don't get to be this fat piece of shit who's never home.
Like I don't think once I start wearing a ring, I mean, even before the ring, like I either never pick up on when someone's flirting with me or just no one ever is interested in me, which I'm, you know, it's fine with. But
Yeah, I could see a lot of people not being interested for sure. The best sweet spot, though, if you're really a scumbag, the sweet spot though is when you're engaged, right?
Yeah.
Is because you talk about your fiance. So some women, and women are generally more responsible than men. Most women look at that as like, oh, this guy's worthy of commitment from like a woman.
Yeah.
He's got his shit together. Probably still not fat because you're still not married, and he's not legally married, he's not morally married. There's still a window in there with which I could probably get this guy, and I mean, I'm just saying, if you're a scumbag, that'd be the way to do it. That's just what I notice women do.
Yeah.
I mean, as if women aren't scumbags themselves. I mean, women can be real pieces of trash too.
It's a pretty general statement, but I know what you mean by it.
Look, men are scum.
Yeah.
According to Twitter, men are scum. But I am
not Twitter.
I'm not I'm not discriminatory. I think women are also scum. So like, I mean, I just think that, like, we're all people. We have the same capacity for good and bad, So I mean, I think women have been treated unfairly for the most part, but it's nothing a little makeup wouldn't fix.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding. That's a joke in my set. I don't want to burn material.
Is that new? Have you written anything new?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy about this is like all the comics who are like, I haven't written anything, or like, I don't know how I'm going to do in comedy. I'm going to do great. Right. Yeah. If comedy ever comes back, I'm going right back to how good I was before this started.
I've been wondering about that because I've been lucky enough to work on some really cool things that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for a pandemic. But like,
oh yeah,
I'm like, once things open up again, like I'm gonna have to find some new jobs because I don't think live streaming is gonna be. I mean, of course, like it'll stay around, but I feel like right now everyone's just clamoring for like live entertainment, and once things open up again, they might not be.
The good thing though that I think that this pandemic has shown it's gotten me to really up my game as far as like a lot of things that had I been doing these things, I'm so far behind the curve, right? The only thing that I've ever accomplished, like as far as like the check marks of what you're supposed to do in comedy, is just be funny.
Yeah.
Right. And like, as far as like the business aspect of it, I just now started to really, in the last couple of years, figure out, oh, I should have been doing X, Y, and Z this whole time that my peers have been doing. It always kills me when I'm like, because I used to be more bitter about this, and I would see a comic who's maybe like 2 years in, bombing at open mics, like handing out cards, and like doing like, I have a podcast, I have a website, and like, I'm submitting to like these major festivals or whatever, and I'm like, why would you do that when your peers don't even think you're funny? And the audience is not going to think you're funny. Why would you do any of that? But it's like, that's where the market's going, is that everybody just, it's a direct to consumer market anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And CAA, that the biggest talent agency, I think, or one of the biggest in the country, laid off like 300 people.
Did they really?
Yeah. So like, you're going to have to see more. We talk about this a lot. Me and some of my comic buddies who have, a couple of my friends have managers within the comedy business and stuff like that. And there's a decision a comic usually has to make at some point in time. It's like, do I kind of just keep trying to go like for industry sort of things, like Comedy Central and representation, who is going to get me some kind of like mainstream sort of success, or it's like, do you just go full rogue?
Yeah. So does that mean that there's a lot of unrep people right now?
I don't know. Nobody I know. Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't see anybody. I've been trying to stay off social media as much as I can, so I didn't see anybody talk about it. And then nobody who's like really close with me has texted me and been like, oh, I lost my fucking rep or anything.
Yeah.
But I know it's got to have affected somebody I know. I don't think it's that they were lost as clients. I think it's just that if you are the lower third of the company, They're just going to allocate all your work up.
Right.
That's what happened to me during the fiscal crisis of 2008. Was that I was working at a hotel, a 5-star luxury hotel, and we started losing, because the housing market crashed. The economy blew up and everything like that. So they didn't lay anybody off, but they would just have them work like 2 shifts a week, except for people like me who are salaried,
Yeah.
And then when somebody salaried would quit, they would just give somebody their job. Like, so I would be like the communications manager, and then somebody from the front desk would quit. So now all of a sudden I'm also the front desk manager for the same price that I was being paid as the communications manager.
Yeah, I've been in that position too. I
Yeah.
worked at a bank during the Bank of America during the crisis, and it was just like I was an administrative assistant and I had a team of like 15 people, and then they were just like, all right, now you have 30 people.
Oh yeah.
No pay raise or anything. Just that's your job.
Oh, because they got you by the balls because they know the cost of living is so hard and there's no other jobs.
Yeah.
Especially because I lived in Charleston, South Carolina, which is a tourism city.
Yeah.
And there's no tourists coming, you're fucked. And what are you gonna do, bitch? That's like how all these corporate overlords basically are. It's like, what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, that's true. They all got bailed out and shit, and they still laid off like thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah. I said this before, and I think we'll see if I'm right or not. But when I said they passed this latest stimulus package, that if they just gave a bunch of money to corporations again, and there was no like direct payments to American citizens, there's going to be like a riot in the streets. And it's not that I want there to be one. It's not that I'm going to go participate in it. Yeah. You know what I mean? But people should be pissed because there's a guy in Florida who took his payroll protection loan and bought a Lamborghini with it. You know what I mean? It's like, sure, the guy's going to go to jail, but that money's already gone, And what are they going to do? They're going to repo that Lamborghini. They're going to sell it for half of what it's worth, maybe. And then that money is going to go back into the tax system. It's like, just give money. They don't want to close the wealth gap. And as we kind of find out with like the way the Democrats voted throughout this whole bill, is that they are no different than Republicans, except for they have a woke marketing campaign.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Yeah, totally.
It's
right.
Really true. And the thing is that I hate about this is that it makes me agree with people I vehemently dislike. Mm-hmm. Like, have you ever heard of El Chapo Trap House?
Yeah, why?
The dirtbag left, because they're just a bunch of socialist losers. And I just don't like socialists. I don't like anybody who, I understand why some people feel this way about socialism and things like that right now. Like, what people need to realize is socialism is new Coke, right? You remember in the 80s when they came out with new Coke and it was a new formula? It was just a different taste of poisoning you. And but here's the thing is it's actually also pre-Coke as well, because it's already been like a failed system. And as I've explained before, a lot of these people who are like Bernie's whole platform was the government's going to do it, right? You're like, hey, what about, this problem? He's like, the government's going to do it. Yeah. What about, schools? Oh, the government's going to do it. Free tuition. And you're like, wait a minute, who's going to pay for all of this? And it's like, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. And it's like, we've demonstrated clearly time and again that the government is nothing but malfeasance and inability. And yet you're like, we're going to give all the money to the government. It's just ridiculous.
It was so weird. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but listening to like Hamilton so much, it's like clear that sentiment of like people being paranoid about the government controlling too much of people's lives or their money or whatever, like that's been here since the beginning, and that's just like how it's going to be in this country till there is no more.
That's how it is. That's how it is in any country. Really, honestly, it's like you go over to England and over in England, they're just, arguing about spots of tea and how many, will the government let them paint their storefront, sort of thing.
Right.
Because like England with the monarchy and everything and the government, they have just so much like concern about tradition and stuff like that. And like America obviously is not that way.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and the thing is like, I don't it's not that I dislike a lot of socialists personally. Like I know a lot of them, or I know people who claim to be and whatnot. I just think it's a dumb idea. It's a dumb idea that's been tried before. And I think that, but I understand though, I empathize. And I think people are so disenfranchised with the capitalist system because the way it is right now, how it's structured right now, it's not set up for you to win. Yeah. It's just set up for the people in power, the Jeff Bezos of the world, to win. That, what other recourse do they have but to hurt these oligarchs by implementing it through government? And I think that, as we discussed before, big data is like the oil of our time, Totally. Yeah, the new information age and whatnot. We live in a post-humanity world, in my opinion. And what I mean by that is like we've conquered nature. We conquered nature. We beat it. There are people who are born today, who were born within the last 50 years on the within industrial society, who've never struggled for anything, and they just lack so much meaning in their life that they'll never know what it's like to lift something and control it and have this actualization about themselves, to see a thing through. And because they don't have to, we beat it. We have instant heat, we have instant cold, we have instant ice, we have whatever you like need instantly. We just have it.
Yeah.
And so
wow,
it's
I never really thought about it like that though, is that the obstacle of surviving on this planet like has been defeated long ago. Like we figured it out.
Well, yeah, it's true. Well, it came with industrial society. This is where I have my own things that I have to say that are a moral equivalent of the shitty things that El Chapo Trap House says. But it's from a different perspective. Yeah. And I came to a lot of this realization when I read the Freedom Society. I shouldn't say that. I screwed that all up. It's not Freedom Society. There's a book publication that was put out called Industrial Society and Its Future. And it was written by, quote unquote, the Freedom Club. Okay. The Freedom Club was just a pseudonym for Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Yeah. You still have those pictures that I sent you?
Oh, shit. Let me pull them up.
Yeah, there's one picture. There's a picture of the Unabomber that everybody, like, I'm sure they'll be teaching in textbooks. If they don't, they're really screwing up. But I mean, Ted Kaczynski was a professor of mathematics and whatnot. And in the 80s and 90s, he sent bombs to people as a way to highlight that industrial society was making humanity gross, ugly, and destroying the planet. And so I read his book. You could buy his book. Like, remember back in the day, like real record stores, like CD and record stores. And like, I think they started to die around the mid 2000s, when digital music and everything started to come up. So that's Ted Kaczynski when he was arrested. You got to show the one where, that's the one that was
right.
Yeah, that's like, young Ted Kaczynski. That's like on the University of Michigan campus, I think, or Harvard campus.
He's like a good-looking man.
He's a good-looking kid. Yeah, here's the thing. He went through that program at Harvard where the CIA gave him acid. And yeah. There's that program. I forget exactly what it's called. The CIA gave him acid and tortured him, basically, psychologically, to see like what effects it would have on a person's psyche and everything.
Yeah, we just watched Jacob's Ladder, which is basically what that's about.
Okay, cool. And so it turned him into an incel that sent mail package bombs to loggers and like computer professors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so and here's the thing is like, so they published the Unabomber manifesto in the newspaper, in every major newspaper in the 90s. I forget exactly what year that it was. Yeah, there he was. So that's the thing. That's not even Ted Kaczynski.
Right. But that's what everyone thinks of when they hear it.
Right. Yeah, that's a photo, or that's actually the guy who is the sketch artist who drew the sketch. Like the person who claims that they saw Ted Kaczynski sat down with the sketch artist, and the sketch artist just described the person sketching them. Basically, it was like the
witness basically just described the person who was right in front of him sketching this.
Yeah, because yeah. Like if you were to sit there and ask me like, hey, what does Chris Gersbeck look like? And I'd be like, I don't know, some kind of stupid Muppet, you know, and we had to like make like a drawing of it. It wouldn't look like how you probably look, even though I see you all the time. Same with me, like anybody does that sort of thing. So anyway, so he threatened to blow up an airplane if they didn't publish his manifesto in every major newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And so they published it. He didn't blow up an airplane, thank the Lord, you know. But the thing is, though, is like he was deemed crazy or whatever and everything, and then all of a sudden, you know, he's thrown in jail. But like these, like I got a copy of his manifesto. It was like some punk rock record label had published it as a book so that you could read it, because it's information. I mean, it's available online nowadays. You know what I mean? And who knows to what extent that.
Well, I mean, like Mein Kampf is still in print, isn't it?
In my house, yeah. Yeah, I think it is. I almost bought a copy just to read it, just because I'd never read it before. I mean, I've read a lot of things that I read the Satanic Bible, you know what I mean? And I've read the Jefferson Bible. I've read the Jefferson Bible is one I enjoy. It just focuses on Jesus's acts and whatever. And it's this thing right now that we have in society where people do want to censor information. And it's not just an exclusively liberal thing where they want to censor it. It's like, you know, back in the day in the 90s, Republicans wanted to censor the Unabomber manifesto. Mm-hmm. They didn't want, you know, because the logging industry, the computer industry, the technology industry were big money makers for them. And they didn't want people thinking like, hey, maybe this isn't the best thing ever to introduce cameras into every device that we have so they can spy on us constantly.
Yeah.
And it was a terrible act what he did, but it did bring awareness to what I think is like a real problem right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of the reason why things are so screwed up nowadays within society is that we talked about this briefly over text, but you did not. You are a Terminator fan, correct?
Yeah, I mean the first two movies I've seen a million times.
The first two movies are amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
those to me, like that just felt like that was the bar set for like what a good, like that was like Terminator 2 was like, oh, that's like the highest quality action movie.
Yes, 100%. Oh yeah. Oh, it's easily one of the best action movies. It's like one of the 10 best action movies.
Yeah,
it's like that, Logan, Mission Impossible 6.
Oh man, they're making 2 more. Did you know that?
Yeah. Oh
like,
yeah.
Back to back.
Yeah, I'm a huge Ethan Hunt fan.
Me too.
I love
those movies are the best.
Yeah,
really are good.
So
the Terminator, I like the first 2 movies, like I know, like I'm so like into that story, and I love it. I love the characters. I think it's amazing what they how they made like the sequel just so completely different from the first one.
Right, but it still continued the story.
Yeah.
It was a natural character progression and whatnot. Well, I watched Terminator 6, Terminator Dark Fate, and
Isn't that
that
7?
no, it's 6.
Wait.
I
Genesis.
promise you it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe you.
But Terminator Dark Fate is the best campaign advertisement for Andrew Yang out there. Because like it addresses some issues that are very pertinent right now: globalization, in industrial society, and job displacement, and artificial intelligence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I, as I've said a million times before, I stan Andrew Yang pretty hard. He was one of the outlying presidential hopefuls. He's the only one who had like a good vision for, I think, how to handle the current situation, the current like crisis. But basically what he's stating, it, and it's true, is something that honestly Ted Kaczynski feared and brought up years ago with his nail bombs, was that automation was going to start displacing people, and people were going to be just destitute. They're going to be without skills, like life skills. You know what I mean? Like if you put one of us, you put any New Yorker, you put 98% of Americans in the woods and be like, hey, you got to survive now. Mm-hmm. We'd all die. There'd be many people who would just die.
Yep.
And I'm not saying, I mean, society is how people and I mean, you put any animal singularly in the woods, they're gonna die eventually. You know what I mean? But like, that's how society amongst all living things work. There's just an ecosystem to them and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's Terminator 6. That's Terminator Dark. This is the all-female reboot of Terminator.
So I couldn't get through Dark Fate. I tried. I just had no interest. I was like, I don't need to know this story.
No, I get it. Now, I mean, the thing, they ignore 3 through 5, right? And then this girl in the middle is like the millennial, I'm over it Terminator. And then the young woman is like the leader of the new resistance, and you got Sarah Connor.
I just think it's so weird that like they did this with the third one where they're like, oh yeah, it's a female Terminator, and then they're just like basically lapping, like they're like,
she's not really a Terminator. She's an augmented human, which is just a way of giving her she has superpowers. More or less. Yeah.
So they introduced like more supernatural elements.
No. I mean, she's able to be shot up or whatever and still survive. Sort of. Okay. I don't mean supernatural. I'm just using like a layman's term for being like she's not an ordinary human.
Yeah. I mean, I guess time travel is supernatural.
It's sci-fi. Sure.
Yeah.
It's not really supernatural so much as sci-fi.
That's true. Yeah.
So, but anyways, like in one of the opening scenes, this young lady over here, she works at a factory. The young Latino lady, she works at a factory in Mexico City, and she shows up to work with her brother, and her brother's job was replaced by a machine. And like, they work at a car factory or whatever. Yeah. And that's just true. That's what's happening to every like all jobs now. Right. And there's just such a displacement rate. Like at a certain point, I mentioned Logan earlier. Logan had self-driving trucks.
Oh yeah.
Right. You can exit out of this. We don't need to see this anymore. But Logan had self-driving trucks in it. And so truck drivers are eventually going to be out of work. Right. Yeah. And
because of Logan?
Yeah, because of Logan. No. Because of the automation, they're going to have automated vehicles that are going to take their jobs. Yeah. And it's rather than have a trucker on meth drive your food across country, they're going to have a robot do it.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that I've kind of hated about the attitude that you got out of a lot of like more of the liberal media, is they're like, oh, well, tell them to go code, tell them to go back to school or whatever. And like, these are like, I couldn't go back to school at 41. These are like 50-year-old dudes from rural nowhere whose only life that they've had has been truck driving and it's going to continue to be truck driving until you take that away from them or they die. You know what I mean? And it's like, so when like all those like snarky liberal arts degree newspapers back like in online zines like BuzzFeed and all that sort of stuff, like when they all folded or got bought up, and I was like, well, maybe you could go learn to code. Why don't you go back to school? It's like you're just shitting on an entire class of people, and it's okay, I guess, because they're white guys. But like, you know, where's the humanity in this?
Yeah, well, what's the solution?
So the solution to it is through Andrew Yang is to, and this is where my wife and I get into the weeds about what this specifically is like you have companies like Amazon, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, who are making billions and billions of dollars, mainly through your data.
Yeah.
You know, Google barely makes hardware. The hardware that they make, even the hardware that Microsoft makes anymore, it's almost kind of like, it's like a front. The real money, it's like what you see in the front of the store.
Yeah.
The real money is in the poker game in the back.
Yeah.
And that's, Facebook is especially the worst because Facebook has no physical product. You're the product, right? And they're worth $600 billion, I think close to $700 billion from what? A free service? Mm-hmm. That means they're generating income based off of you, right? And if you were to tax Facebook at even just like 10%, we'll say, and I'm just throwing out arbitrary numbers, and you take $70 billion and you pump that into the American economy by what Andrew Yang wants to do is have Medicare for all, and he wants to give a freedom dividend, basically universal basic income payments to every American citizen for $1,000 a month, which is, when I first heard that idea, and I'm not the best spokesman for him, I just like his ideas. When I first heard the idea, that goes against everything that I've been taught, right? Like, honestly, like you don't take a fucking handout or whatever, but when you realize that, no, they're stealing from you. They're stealing your information and selling you back your own information and selling it to advertisers to prey upon you. Right. You're being fleeced.
Yeah.
And I'll tell
you, at least have the option to spend some of that money wherever you want.
Right. Absolutely. And I tell you, I wouldn't necessarily feel this way if the government didn't keep giving trillions of dollars to these big businesses, and then people are still out of jobs and losing their fucking homes.
Yeah, makes no sense.
You know what I mean? Like the guy that I used to work for at the hotel, the overall CEO of the company that I worked for is worth like $4 or $5 billion. And he, because it's the South and they're right to work states, will Thanos snap the shit out of his entire workforce if it means he has to save all his money. Now, I understand that's the goal of capitalism, and I think that he should have that right. However, we should tax the shit out of his corporation to ensure that the people who are doing the work to make him that money are living a standard quality of life.
Yeah.
And I will be called a pussy or a queer for saying these sorts of things, right? Because like this is against like a conservative narrative. But the thing is like when people love, like if you listen to Southerners, they will praise the great state of Texas. Okay, Texas is a bastion of freedom. Texas is where you can get land, you can get it cheap, you can do what you want with, you can shoot your guns, you can hunt, you can do whatever, okay? That would not be possible today if things had played out the way that Sam Houston wanted them to, right? Sam Houston was a land baron who owned most of Texas individually and privately for himself until the government stepped in and said, whoa, Jack, you can't have all this fucking land. Like, I'm oversimplifying this and I could be pretty off base, but I don't think I am. And they basically broke up what was a monopoly of land in order to ensure that the citizens could survive. Government is a necessary evil. I think it should be limited, but it should also stand to benefit the citizens who are producing in this society.
Yeah.
And if you think about it too, the number one demographic that should be voting for Andrew Yang are women, because one of the theories that he has behind it is that women, um, if they're mothers, they're stay-at-home moms, if they're homemakers, if they're caretakers, they're actually doing a harder job than the guy who goes out to work.
Yeah.
Because you're raising children. That's a tough job.
Mhm.
And with a universal basic income, that woman's role, or man, if they're, at home and the wife does is the breadwinner, that person's life is valued now. They have a contribution to the household. And it's like when you look at it and you go, if a household makes $100,000 a year and they have 2 kids, they only look at, well, the man's the only earner in the family. It's like, well, if the wife's at home doing all the work to make sure that the household is in order, raising the children to be productive members of society and not dirtbags, she has value as well. It just doesn't register as a gross domestic product.
Right.
And that's what's fucked up in my opinion.
Yeah, it's I mean, I feel like this pandemic just proved like how fucking corrupt everything is.
Mhm.
That all it takes is, not to, I mean, obviously it's like a extremely deadly disease, but like, in comparison, like the death rate is not that high, but like that's all it takes to just completely destroy an economy. And you just have to close everything.
Right, for sure. I mean, at this point, I think everybody knows somebody with COVID.
Yeah.
I found out recently a family member has it. And so you just have to look at it and go, this is like, there's no, like, I've known a lot of people to get COVID at this point, or have symptoms of it, or get screened for it and they've had the antibodies. And it's like, I had no idea I knew this many crisis actors. because it's fucking clear that like you don't. So there's clearly a problem.
That's what's funny. It's like anytime on the internet I see someone like, do you know anyone who's actually had COVID? Because I don't. And it's like someone who's just, completely skeptical of it. And every time I see that, there's like 100 comments being like, yeah, my friend died from it. Or like, it's nuts.
Well, and the other aspect, the other problem I think about with this too, why we aren't all on the same board, is one, we have such a divided fucking country right now. And I don't want to exclusively shit on Donald Trump or whatever, but like we all know he sucks as a president. But like,
he's kind of warming up to me.
Yeah. I mean, culturally, I'm with him. Just kidding.
When I was in Jersey, we saw a Trump flag on someone's house, and it said Trump 2020. Enough with the bullshit.
Yeah, I love that one. Enough with the bullshit that I've been doing. Elect me again, and we're gonna knock this shit out.
It's like he's running a re-election campaign against himself. It makes no sense.
Yeah, he basically kind of is. And these problems would be happening regardless of Trump. And granted, I don't think we wouldn't feel like we were being gaslit every day if he weren't president. But I don't think that Hillary wouldn't have done anything to address.
Right. But in comparison, like if we were in that alternate timeline where Hillary was president, in comparison to what Trump has done, like
sure. She would have addressed this pandemic better for sure. But here's the thing though, is I don't want to get into the weeds about that because like I still think she wasn't good. I don't think she's like good. But here's the thing though, is that I thought my wife was listening for a minute. She heard me talking shit about Hillary and she's ready to come out here and fight. Is that oh no, she's pretending like she can't hear. But is that I can understand why people have an untrusting or a distrusting relationship with certain news sources
Yeah.
and certain news outlets and everything like that, because they're just being fed like different perspectives. I mean, I don't think MSNBC is a whole heck of a lot better than Fox News.
Yeah.
They both had just kind of spin their own narratives. Gone are the days of Tom Brokaw and Walter Cronkite where they just report the news and then you have to like decide for it on your own.
Mm-hmm.
I also think social media, as I've stated a million times on this podcast before, is also part of the problem. I deactivated my Facebook and my Twitter today.
Oh, did you really? I tried tagging you earlier and I couldn't find you. I guess that's why.
Yeah, that's why. I don't. Sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. I would do the same thing if I could.
I can come back. I'll come back to Facebook in like a month just to make an incendiary Facebook post and get into fights again. But like
yeah, like whenever you come back, you do manage to get into like these big like kind of argumentative posts.
Yeah, because last week
we don't have to talk about it, but it is funny that when you come back, it's like you come back hard.
I come back stronger than ever. I just have opinions about shit. Well, here's the thing, is because, and this kind of ties into this a little bit, is last week I had to go to Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and had a meeting with the boys from Bushwick Bears, a couple other comics. We are like working on a project or whatever. And so we met at an outdoor bar where we could keep social distance and everything. And I'm driving down Metropolitan in Williamsburg, the Paris of being offended. And between Metropolitan and Bedford Avenue is just straight up hipster paradise. You know what I mean? It's like where everybody who spends $7 on a latte and then confesses their Che Guevara tendencies converges. Yeah. And they're the type of people who will just straight up shit on Midwesterners and poor Southerners and poor people in the Plain States and hicks and rednecks and everything like that. And not a one of them were wearing a mask, right? And they're going to be like, yeah, Florida, you're screwing everything up for us as a country, you dickheads. And it's like they're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And if I had taken a picture of Williamsburg, Brooklyn, but I told you it was Fort Myers, Florida, everybody on Twitter would have been like, oh man, these dumbasses, these losers. Yeah. And it just makes me mad.
It's like, funny. You watched Ozark, right?
Oh yeah.
You just reminded me like the end of the first season. I won't spoil anything, but like, when the guy says something about rednecks and he ended up getting his head blown off.
Yeah.
I thought that was like such a kind of brilliant scene to just show like, yeah, everyone on the show is a complete scumbag, but like you probably shouldn't fuck with them no matter who they are.
It's not even so much that, right? It is okay. A more telling scene for me, in my opinion, from Ozark was that Ozark is a show about Jason Bateman has to take his family to the Ozark to escape some drug dealers. Okay. Yeah. We'll just surmise it that way. He's got a son and a daughter. Okay. His daughter was like a champion high school swimmer. She was like a rich kid. Mm-hmm. Family was doing well and everything like that, was going to go off to a great school, all American family and everything. And so she goes down to the Ozark, has to live like a more modest life because they can't spend as much money because they're not able to. And there's a season of boaters who come in on the Ozark, and it's a lot of rich kids who come in from like other cities and whatnot, Chicago and everything. And the daughter ends up hooking up with one of the rich kids because she's used to hanging out with the rich kids and whatnot. She's pretty cute. Well, the rich kid ups and leaves, doesn't say goodbye to her or nothing like that, right? Yeah. And that's when she realizes, oh yeah, I'm not one of the rich kids anymore. I'm another poor piece of shit that I used to make fun of.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of like really great sort of analogies.
Social commentary.
I mean, because you see like this, it's there's no difference really between what Jason Bateman's character is doing versus what the Snells are doing with their poppy farm. But we kind of like, they live in like this big house, even though they are like on the run from the Mexican drug cartel. So it's almost like you see like how they get rewarded for this, because it's more like white. It's like they seem more like white collar, whereas the Snells are seen as like rednecks and hicks, but they're both doing like the same shit.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of this sort of, I mean, like this black market, Andrew Yang also, to get back on my Yang stand, also wants to decriminalize drugs. Like across because the criminal stigma behind it is what really clogs our prison system.
Oh yeah.
And then also too, it's like, who are you to judge what somebody's like proper prescription is for? I mean,
yeah, I just learned is that heroin was like a brand name by like created by Bayer. Like they marketed heroin as like a non-addictive alternative to morphine, I think.
Right. Yeah. And then you used to be able to, like, when you were like back in the 20s, you could send an 8-year-old to go buy you a tin of opium at the store. Back when I was a kid, my dad could send me to the store with a note to go get him cigarettes. Because
my parents never smoked cigarettes. So I didn't have that. But was that really a thing that you were able to do? My dad told me that, but that was like in the 50s.
Well,
he'd like go to the store and just buy a pack of cigarettes for his dad.
Yeah. Until I got into high school, I just buy them for myself.
Yeah.
And just like act older. Hey, I'd like some cigarettes, please. But anyways, but he does have this idea where it's like, decriminalizing this, because especially if you look at minority communities are the most affected by this.
Yeah.
And I used to be the type of person where I didn't really believe when I was in the Navy, I met some more of my friends who were a little bit more radicalized Black. And they would tell me like certain things about like how they viewed, the crack epidemic and everything like that. And I would be like, oh, come on, that's bullshit. And then you kind of learn like, oh yeah, they did make sentencing for crack way harsher for coke, because you're not going to find crack at, the country club. You're going to find cocaine there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the government created crack, but I think that they definitely didn't stop it from happening.
Oh yeah, they turned a blind eye to it.
For sure, yeah. I mean, and crack is a natural byproduct of a poor black market, where you got to take a good product like cocaine, and you have to figure out a way to spread it even thinner, but get a maximum, result from it.
Yeah, I saw New Jack City.
Oh, I lived New Jack City, so that's good. My dad did die. My dad was batting 2 for 2 as far as heroin and crack at the time of his death. Yeah, I know. What a loser.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I'm glad I didn't become, I'm 41 years sober from heroin today. That's not going to commemorate my birthday this year on social media. I'm going to commemorate, I'm 42 years sober from heroin today.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think a lot of this sort of stuff, because like we're not going to be able to turn back like progress like that. Elon Musk want to put chips into people's brains and stuff like that, which is bananas. And I think people would rebel against, I would hope. I don't want to live through that. But, as far as automation goes, I don't think we're going to be able to get away from it. It's already kind of its own thing. And it's like, I don't think it's going to grow to the point where, a Terminator robot is going to come back from the future and blow us, kill us all.
It is very plausible though. That's why I love the Terminator movies so much, because like once the robots do become self-aware, there's nothing we can do to stop them.
Well, the fantastical part of it and is the time travel. I don't know how they're going to do that part, but I mean, as far as like that, yeah, I mean, I for sure drones and stuff like that, like. Being able to send drone strikes out and nuclear launches and all that sort of thing. Like, I think that's a very real like possibility, You know,
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, I can't say very real. I just don't think it's completely out of the scope of being that someday, you know, artificial intelligence is going to recognize that humanity is the biggest problem facing the planet. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's Ultron in Age of Ultron. It's
Man, Age of Ultron.
what a classic film.
You know what? I think that movie was actually just bound to like not be great. And they kind of just had to make it so that they could get to Infinity War with there being at least one movie in between the stories, you know?
Well, if you think about if you think about the Age of Ultron, it's so that they could set up the rest of the phase. They could set up the next phase of movies.
Right.
Yeah, they created
Right.
Vision. They furthered along the Time Stone thing.
Yeah.
They mentioned Wakanda, the vibranium. Um, you know, they just set up the next like
Right.
storyline or whatever.
But also
It
like
was like a place setter movie.
we've known since pretty much the beginning of the MCU that Thanos was gonna be there, and then it took like what, like 10 years for him to actually be the villain. Something.
Oh, it took I think 17 movies for him to be the villain, if you
Right,
count.
but like 10 years from
Oh,
when
10 years. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Iron
yeah.
Man came out.
Yeah, Iron Man came out in 2007. Avengers came out in 2012. So you didn't really know until
That's true,
Avengers.
yeah.
Yeah, so 2012, but it's still just like they've been setting up this whole thing and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, so that's why I've been focused on like that sort of crap for the past week. And that's why I've had to get off social media, because like we all address it wrong,
Mhm.
you know. And I just read social, it just makes me so mad, and I fall for it too, because like you see what's happening in Portland right now,
Yeah, it's insane.
where oh, and speaking of which, in the streets of New York City yesterday there was a protest that went right by my office. I got video of it,
Uh-huh.
and later on that day one of the people from the protest was snatched up by the secret police and thrown into a van.
Oh, one of the people
Yeah,
that was at the protest, yeah, I saw
that
that
I saw.
video. Yeah.
Yeah. That protest went by my office earlier in the day. And so they snatched that person up. And
And this is the NYPD, not federal forces or whatever.
it's Department of Homeland, from what I've read, which I mean, I could be wrong, it's Department of Homeland Security working in conjunction with local law enforcement agencies to conduct clandestine arrests.
But that's bullshit though, right? Because having local officials in Portland said that they don't want them there.
Right, which is more just federal and state oversight saying, we don't give a shit what you local officials say. We're going to do it
Uh,
anyways. Yeah.
uh,
And here's the thing with Portland and everything, like Portland was already a bananas city.
yeah, I was just there in November. It's
What was your impression? Because you're a little bit more liberally than I am.
um it's a very hipster city, but the homelessness is like impossible to ignore. You can't walk
Mm-hmm.
down a street without being like, what the fuck is going on here? Just tents everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
We pat my buddy who lives out there I was staying with, we drove past this building, and you could just see like a huddles, like a total, like the whole street was just covered with like people, and I'm like, what the fuck are they trying to get in for? They're like, oh, that's the local missionary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's really pretty bad. And it's the thing about the people who are there, though, is like they are just this little, very intense blue city in the middle of a very red state. Because once you leave Portland, you get into Oregon, it's like white nationalists and stuff.
yeah.
And it's just like two extremes of people that I don't really care for. Which sucks, because like there are some cool people in Portland. I don't want to shit on everybody.
Yeah.
But they are like a weird, sensitive crew of people.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when my wife and I were on our honeymoon, we went to Portland, and we drove around the entire country. One of our stops was in Portland. We were staying at an Airbnb, and the owner of the Airbnb was a trans person named Fortis.
Mhm.
Okay. And my wife was telling me, like, on our way to Portland, she was like, hey, listen, this is like, I don't know, 2000. How long have we been married for? It was like 2016. No, this is like 15.
Mhm.
I forget exactly when, but I forget how long we've been married. I forget if Trump was president. I don't feel like Trump was president when we went on our honeymoon. I might be wrong. So, anyways, so we're going there, and she's like, and my wife thinks the worst of me as far as like as it comes to like social cues and everything like that, which I think is somewhat fair based on the fact that I'm a comedian, but I'm not an insensitive person. And I also, even if I completely disagree with somebody's lifestyle, it's not my place to comment on it.
Mhm.
And I'm polite because I'm Catholic from the Midwest, right? So it's not as if like I'm aggressive or rude. I've learned throughout my life to keep my mouth shut. That's the number one thing they teach you in Catholics. Shh. Keep secrets. Keep your
very
feelings
trendy
in.
there.
Yeah. So, anyways, so as a transgender person named Forrest, so she'd be like, okay, you know, don't make any jokes or anything like that. I'm like,
why would you?
yeah, exactly. Why would I do that? Even you know that about me, that I wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? And I have trans friends and associates, especially within comedy. I think that like Jay McBride, I've hung around with, super cool and very funny. You know, Margot Reese is a sweetheart, as a friend of mine and everything. So I don't have these like sort of things, even though like I look at it as like that's not a decision I would make for myself, but I'm a Christian, and that's between you and God.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not one of those like flame throwing, condemning people or whatever. So we show up to this place, and Fortis greets us at the door. And Fortis, for whatever reason, when like a man goes through transitioning to a woman, it seems like they dress up like the most like a 50s housewife, you know? Like she had a beehive hairdo and you know, tits and a dress and everything, and like heels and all that. And it's like you could still look, you know, how whatever. But if that makes you feel comfortable, who am I to judge? And I didn't say anything. I was super polite. And Fortis showed us around the place, and like there was like a, you know, code lock and everything like that. And I'm wearing a Michigan sweatshirt, okay? And so they had a bidet in their bathroom, and Fortis is showing me how to use it, and looks at me basically and goes, hey, this is how this works. I know you probably wouldn't understand these sorts of things because you're from Michigan and you're not cultured, but this is how this goes. And like Fortis, the person I was supposed to be sensitive of, was insulting towards me, right? You know what I mean? And I'm just like, wait a minute here. I could have been making fun of you this whole time, you know? Your pumps don't match your dress, sweetheart. You're not even doing a good job of this. And so,
did you leave a good review?
Yeah, we left a good review. And honestly, Fortis was cool. Was polite to us the whole time. Outside of that, I think they were trying to joke with me, but it was like it didn't land because I'm not allowed to joke back.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I did make one snide comment because she said, you got to watch out around here. I spend a lot of my time having to fight Nazis. And I was like, in those heels?
That's good.
And so, but it's this type of person that has like this really weird doctrine about themselves. And I found a lot of people from Portland exhibit that. And I found a lot of people from Portland that I've met who do ascribe to this morality are not necessarily just good people or the best people, especially just because they ascribe to that. And I didn't enjoy like you know, some people there. Basically, just straight up, it's not my favorite city for sure. And when I see like these Portland people who are like just advocating anarchy and stuff like that, and like they want to you know, they want to kill cops and all that sort of shit. It's like, okay, don't make me pick the cop side in this. And I'm not going to. But the thing is, though, is like we can't sit there and address the situation by constantly saying, ramping it up, escalating the two sides anymore. And I think a thing like a freedom dividend, like a universal basic income, especially if you guys it under freedom dividend and it goes towards tax eligible American citizens, will give all of us some sense of like a national identity, and also just like, oh shit, I don't have to like struggle and have all this built up angst and anxiety and hatred for other people, even rich people. You'd be like, you know what? Because like, okay, so say Mark Zuckerberg, instead of being worth 700 billion, is worth 600 billion, but America isn't poor and we're not dying in the streets of heroin. I know that's like, my wife is like, well, that's socialism. I'm like, no, socialism means that you tax the individual like that.
Right.
I'm talking what Andrew Yang has is called human-centered capitalism, which is a better response in my opinion.
Yeah.
But whatever. I started reading today Between the World and Me.
What's that?
By Ta-Nehisi Coates. And it talks about like the Black experience. It's basically a book where he is basically writing a letter to his son about what he feels like being Black in this country and what his son should expect, the history and everything like that. And I think people would be more prone to listening and understanding another person's perspective if we could humanize and dignify them, you know? And so, I don't know. The news media shows us like a certain specific narrative, and in order for them to make money, and I think that's what part of the problem is. I don't think we'd have to like focus. There wouldn't be any anger to harvest if we had a little bit less of a gap.
Yeah,
wealth inequality.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen in our lifetime.
Quit being such a Debbie Downer, you dickhead. God, I hate this level of cynicism from people when they're just like, yeah, but you know what? It sucks anyways. It's like, Jesus Christ, you're gonna die. Like you're gonna die being like, I guess it.
I'm gonna die by just curling up in a ball and being like, I can't do it anymore.
Do some push-ups, you goddamn sissy.
You know what? That's something like exercise has been like I look forward to it so much every day now, because I exercise like every afternoon.
Yeah.
But like I didn't for like 3 days, and I've been really good about doing it like 5 times a week, and then I went 3 days without it, and like on the 4th day I was like, I have to, because I feel like I'm gonna lose my fucking mind if I don't.
Absolutely.
Like, I had to I knew I had to do it to like clear my head and have like a good rest of the day. Like honestly, nothing makes me feel more like centered and clear-headed than exercising.
Yeah, I think the pandemic's taught everybody that too.
Yeah,
it was like, totally. Now that we have the time to exercise, because I've been having to go into my office this week, and when I get home, it's actually after like a long day, and I'm just like beat up, and because our office is moving and everything. I told my wife, like, she got very upset when I said this, but like, having to go into an office and then come home after work without anywhere else to go, it was like being grounded when you're still in school. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, I got to go to this place I don't want to go to, and then I got to come home and sit around the house.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, oh, well, it's a real positive way to look. I'm like, come on, you have to know that like none of us are happy in this situation. And but if I don't think I have to keep going to the office too much longer. In fact, I think after like next week, I don't have to go at all again until Labor Day, which is going to make it easier to get back into working out. But like, if I had to keep doing this, I would wake up at like 6 a.m. and work out before work, so I could devote like maximum energy to myself first. I miss that about the military. Right, so we just have to wake up 4:30 in the morning, but like you feel great the rest of the day.
That's not. Yeah, I'm sure. Like I kind of envy that amount of like discipline.
Yeah,
To have to
yeah.
like be forced to do it. Like it's a good thing. Like when we're exercising now, I'm like, we had it so good in high school where like every day we had to do this.
Yeah,
And I think like there should be way more of a focus on that actually.
I
Just
agree.
'cause
If yeah,
it just does so many wonders for like, physical health obviously, but mental health. It's good.
absolutely, and that's the thing too. Well, and that also feeds back into being removed from like like a task. When you had to build your own house or find your own shelter and hunt for your own food, you didn't have to work out. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you were achieving, you were actualizing a purpose, within life. And we've beaten that. Now
Yeah.
you put pizza rolls in the microwave and you're good. And so I think that's what's also caused a lot of unhappiness for people and everything too. And before we end this too, I just want to know, I'm not advocating that what the Unabomber did was good. I'm not saying that we couldn't have maybe come to this conclusion without him sending nail bombs to people.
Yeah.
But you know what, too? Like, who's a big Unabomber guy is Dan Lamort. And we got to start having some guests every now and again. We should have
Sure.
Dan Lamort on there.
Yeah.
Speaking of exercise, he's lost 170 pounds or something like that.
Holy shit. That's like a whole person.
Yeah, he's lost like a whole person.
Oh wow. I just looked at his Twitter photo. He looks great.
Yeah, he used to play baseball, and he reminds me a lot of me when I was younger. He feels like my little brother, even though like he's further along than me in comedy, and at a younger age. But he used to play sports when he was younger. He got injured, got big, and then lost a lot of weight early in his 20s. And like, and he dates Colleen Genevieve, who's a sweetheart and a buddy of mine as well. So it's very cute to see them together. But he and I had talked before. I wanted to do like a limited series, like Unabomber podcast, and I think I'm like, that might be a little too niche. That might draw a little bit too much attention from the NSA.
Yeah.
But I still like I want to hear his stories about it though too, because I mean it's not that he's wrong, but his methodology was certainly not the best either. That's for sure. Remember we did remember when you had that pop culture podcast and I chose the Unabomber to talk about.
Yeah, and then I think it ended up just being you arguing with Colin the whole time.
And I'm right. Whatever we were arguing about, I'm right.
I don't even remember what it was. I remember Michael Clayton messaging me and being like, Jesus, what the fuck happened?
Colin happened. Colin, God bless him. I hope he finds Jesus soon, but he'll never listen to this, right? Nah. Colin's the type of guy who just really believes in all the isms, even when the isms contradict the other isms.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like if your thoughts and your feelings have to be dictated because you go, well, does this fit within the prism of what somebody else told me is, a morally right or wrong thing, it tends to like make you. He created his own doctrine.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that drove me crazy about Catholics and certain sects of Christianity. It's like, well, if the doctrine is failing you as a person or society as a whole, abandon the doctrine because the principle of the matter is more important than the doctrine.
Yeah.
So anyways, all right, let's get out of here. Do you guys think you want to plug?
We put tickets on sale for the next Mads live stream.
Oh, nice. What are you guys watching?
We're gonna watch The Tingler, which is a Vincent Price movie.
Of course it is.
And that's gonna be really fun. The last one was so great. It looks like this one's gonna be even bigger. So
oh wow, jeez.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, if Trace drops out with an ankle injury,
well, what's cool is that just my association with that show, like I've gotten so many followers from producing that one show. It's
great.
been really, it's kind of a couple times I've been like, oh, I don't deserve this. But it's like, no, fuck that. Like I did so much work to do to like get to this point. So
That's great. How many followers did you get out of that?
Just on YouTube, I got like 111 subscribers or something.
Oh wow, that's great. We should host this show on your YouTube channel.
I was just thinking that, yeah, because we streamed the feed to YouTube onto my page. That and then just like on Twitter, like it's crazy.
I'm gonna get you canceled. I'm gonna pull a Brian Yang on you. And then block you on Twitter.
I don't know. Like, I really don't. Like, I'm worried about that. I'm like, is there anything I've done? And I've thought long and hard. I don't think. I mean, of course, someone could come out and say something that I treated them like shit in junior high. I'm sure, but
yeah, but you don't work for a company. Like,
yeah,
what are they gonna? Yeah, that's kind of bullshit. And here's the thing too with that. I've wondered that about myself, and you know. I can't think of anything. And now, granted, somebody might be able to sit there and be like, yeah, he was a dick or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
like everyone was
everybody was a dick. Yeah. And then anything outside of that is like a crime. So report me to the police.
Yeah.
Not to Twitter. And granted, and I'd rather have you report me to the police because I would rather stand trial before, like, you know, in a reasoned courtroom than in front of a mob.
Yeah. And
then have my family get doxxed because you made a false claim or an erroneous claim or something like that, you know? And the other thing about it too is like, who is it? Anthony Bourdain, wasn't it Anthony Bourdain's ex-girlfriend or whatever?
Oh yeah.
She was like one of the big Me Too people. And then it turns out she raped a kid.
Yeah.
And it's like
Asia Argento.
Yeah, Asia Argento. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she had statutory rape with a kid.
Yeah.
And you're just like, all right, so I mean that doesn't nullify like the importance of women having like a say in that. I think it's been really great for women and actualization of them as people, whatever makes them feel empowered, you know?
Yeah.
But as a religious doctrine, I think it fails. You know, believe all women. It's like all of them, all the time. Come on. You ever met some of them? Jeez. Anyways, all right. Well, before I get us both canceled, let's get out of here. I got nothing going on. Follow me on Instagram, I guess. If anybody happens upon this on YouTube and whatnot. And I mean, I'm auditioning for a film.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to cut a new reel soon. Got some sketches in the works and stuff like that. So just can keep putting out content until live comedy comes back in the year 2024.
Yeah.
So
the last I heard was 2022, but we'll see.
Man, don't get me started. Anyways, thanks for hanging out. We had a great hang.
I'm gonna play the theme song to write us off.
All right. Peace.
It's not playing.
What do you know?
All right, let's just...
Derek, Derek, na 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 na.